谁模糊过，怀疑过，也重新来过。
Huo Yuhao's sixth spirit ring came from Wang Qiuer. Her sacrifice granted him a 100,000-year-old spirit ring and a skull bone of incredible quality. Its abilities were astonishing. As a result, Huo Yuhao's power directly rose from rank 60 to rank 70, a whole 10 levels at once. What an unbelievable boost! Therefore, following his sixth ring, Huo Yuhao set out to find his seventh spirit ring. And yes, we're still talking about his first spirit, the Spirit Eyes. Things are a bit different when it comes to the rings of the Ice Empress Scorpion. Huo Yuhao headed into the Forest of Evil, where the strongest spirit beasts on the entire continent resided. After Wang Qiuer's death, the great forest fell into chaos. Even Di Tian, one of the 10 great savage beasts, rose up and summoned all spirit beasts. The disappearance of such a noble imperial beast sent shockwaves through the spirit beast world. If Huo Yuhao didn't intervene, war between humans and spirit beasts would break out, and no one could say who would win. It would be a catastrophe on a global scale. But first, Huo Yuhao had to become stronger. On the Douluo continent, only those with power have the right to speak. The seventh ring would be a qualitative leap in strength. Not only would Huo Yuhao be able to activate Spirit Avatar, the true body of a battle spirit, but his body spirit would also undergo an evolution. 4 body sect cultivators. The seventh ring brings astonishing power. In that forest dwelled the strongest spirit beast in the Sun-Moon Empire. The most powerful type of spiritual beast, tyrannical evil eyes. Their leader was the Evil Eye Emperor, also known as the Evil Emperor. He was the only living being in the last 100,000 years who dared to challenge the beast god, Di Tian, making him truly terrifying. The Ice Silkworm and the Scorpion Empress had long advised Huo Yuhao to enter the Forest of Evil to hunt and kill the Evil Eye, a spirit beast worthy of becoming his seventh ring. The Evil Eye, or Tyrant Evil Eye, was an extremely powerful beast with a spiritual attribute. In the past, Huo Yuhao's mental power wasn't strong enough to handle it. But now that his spiritual power had increased, he was qualified. The Evil Emperor possessed the strongest spiritual power on the continent. He had lived for over 700,000 years, with nearly 800,000 years of cultivation. He could unleash countless spiritual type abilities through his immense mental strength. The area he could cover with his attacks was even greater than that of Di Tian, the beast god. Even if he were killed, his spirit could be transferred into the body of one of his descendants. But of course, this beast would not be Huo Yuhao's seventh ring. With his current level, defeating a near 800,000-year-old beast was simply impossible. However, finding a weaker descendant of the same species, now that was a good idea. Huo Yuhao came across a 100,000-year-old Evil Eye King, a descendant, or more accurately, the child of the Evil Emperor. Typically, the strongest beast of a species is called the Emperor, while a slightly weaker one is referred to as the King. In this case, the Evil Emperor was a tyrannical eye nearly 800,000 years old, and the Evil Eye King was 100,000 years old, equivalent to an early title Douluo at rank 90 to 91. That was the beast Huo Yuhao would fight. If it were just any 100,000-year beast, Huo Yuhao might have run for his life. But because the Evil Eye had a spiritual attribute, and Huo Yuhao possessed overwhelming spiritual and mental strength, he had a real chance to win. The Evil Eye King was massive, about 3 meters in diameter, with 16 tentacles. That also meant it had only a spiritual element. As for its bloodline, it was the same as the Evil Emperor's. The evil eyes of this lineage had purely spiritual attributes and were regarded as the noblest among the tyrannical evil eyes. Moreover, their abilities were extremely powerful. Huo Yuhao was lucky to encounter such a beast. It was a perfect match for his seventh ring and spirit eyes. A fierce battle began. Huo Yuhao summoned his 6 spirit rings, including the rose gold one from Wang Qiuer. He used his skills one by one, weakening, spiritual confusion. But the decisive skill came from Wang Qiuer's ring. Through his spiritual control, Huo Yuhao immobilized the Evil Eye King. The beast couldn't move at all. It was as if its mental energy had been frozen. A golden light burst from Huo Yuhao's Eye of Destiny and struck the enemy directly. At that moment, alongside his 6th ring, Wang Qiuer's, the golden dragon spear suddenly appeared. With lightning speed, the spear pierced through the Evil Eye King, and drops of blood began to fall. Then, a shimmering silver crystal emerged in the air, the mental core of the evil eye. If Huo Yuhao didn't destroy it, the beast wouldn't die and no spirit ring would appear. And he needed that ring urgently. Just as Huo Yuhao was about to destroy the crystal, he heard the deep, echoing voice of the tyrannical Evil Eye King. "You'll die if you dare kill me. My father will avenge me." But Huo Yuhao didn't listen. He unleashed his purifying flame, designed to destroy souls, and melted the Evil Eye's mental crystal to ashes. Before him appeared a blood-red spirit ring. Huo Yuhao froze, staring at it. Instead of absorbing it immediately, he used the golden dragon spear to examine the Evil Eye King's body. Soon, he found a small silver skull. Huo Yuhao knew that this beast left behind only a skull bone. After all, its entire body was mostly head. He planned to take the bone and give it to his teammates, but suddenly, his Eye of Destiny lit up. A beam of rose-gold light shot from it and touched the skull. Huo Yuhao felt a cold rush into his head, a powerful wave of mental energy. But could Huo Yuhao really absorb this skull bone? After all, he already had Wang Chouer's skull bone. Could a spirit master even possess two skull bones? Unbelievably, his Eye of Destiny, or more precisely, Wang Chouer's golden lion skull bone, absorbed the new skull bone. This was one of the key abilities of Wang Chouer's skull bone, to absorb other bones. Right after that, Huo Yuhao felt a terrifying sense of danger. A powerful and furious voice echoed throughout the forest of evil. Who killed my son?" The very air trembled. The ground rippled, and countless spirit beasts collapsed to the ground. Huo Yuhao felt his heart tighten. He had ignored the Evil Eye King's warning about his father, but now he realized it wasn't just a bluff. And this father was none other than the evil emperor himself, one of the most powerful beings on the continent. Huo Yuhao rushed away, hoping the evil emperor wouldn't be able to locate him immediately. But reality was cruel. From the depths of the forest of evil, a towering blood-red pillar of light shot into the sky, and moments later, an enormous blood-red eye appeared, radiating terrifying spiritual waves. Would Huo Yuhao be able to escape from this 800,000-year-old beast? How would he survive? Huo Yuhao was able to survive the attack of the evil-eyed emperor, the father of the tyrannical Evil Eye he had slain, thanks to the unique ability of the skull bone he had received from Wang Chouer. This ability was called mental immunity, and it allowed him to completely ignore any mental attacks, regardless of their strength, up to 3 times a day. When the evil emperor awoke and discovered his son's death, he released a devastating pillar of mental power that engulfed a massive portion of the demonic evil forest. Yuhao was caught right in the epicenter. Despite the overwhelming destruction, he survived because mental immunity had been activated at that very moment. The evil emperor never expected anyone to survive such an attack and didn't bother to verify the outcome. He simply resumed his cultivation. This gave Huo Yuhao a chance to escape. Exhausted but alive, he activated a newly prepared set of soul armor and began an urgent retreat. Thank you so much for watching. Tell us in the comments, how much stronger do you think Huo Yuhao will become once he becomes a true master with 7 spirit rings? Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and see you next time.